Hello. Good morning. It is week 9, the last week of the Infinite Night Helix Quilt Along. This one. Sorry, that's upside down. So this is the week where we take all of our blocks and we make them into our quilts. If you did the baby size, you may already be done, which makes sense because it is just the center, minus the top and the bottom. So I know a lot of people have already finished. Some people are behind, which is okay. I know this quilt definitely was a lot more difficult than any of my other quilt patterns, just because it has so many pieces. So if you're not quite done, that's fine. Keep posting your photos. Everybody loves seeing them. So I know there's more photos over in the Facebook Quilt Along group. So if you're not seeing them on Instagram and you want to see some, I would go over to the Quilt Along group if I were you. It's just Happy Cloud Creations Quilt Alongs. You can also, if you go up to the link in my profile, you can find it that way too. So since this pattern was listed as an intermediate pattern, I'm not going to go over every single step of finishing it. I will try. If there's any questions, let me know. Kind of basically want to go over the top construction today, if anybody has questions about that. Hello, Linda. I'm glad you can make it. Good morning. Let's see. Where should we dive in? Man, it's so cold today. I know it's probably cold for a lot of people. Some people, I guess, are still having heat waves, but it's really cold today. My feet are cold. Anyways, so finishing instructions for the baby, page 14, finishing instructions for the baby are on the top portion, and then finishing instruction for all other sizes is on the bottom. We're going to take our blocks. So the center column blocks will need additional pieces, and when you cut out your fabric, and down here it said pieces around blocks. Those are the pieces we're going to start adding to our blocks to make them bigger, and so that we can sew that center column together. Like in this picture right here, we're going to sew that center column, make them, and then sew them together. If you're making the larger size quilts, like I made the king size, and so I chose to wait to cut my pieces out until now. So that first piece is 3 1/4 by 17 1/2. You can get 2 pieces out of a width of fabric, the 17 1/2. But once you get down to the, well, same with the 19 3/4, you can get 2 of those pieces. But once you get to the 8 3/4 by 22 1/2, you might not be able to get 2 22.5 inch pieces out of width of fabric. So what I did was so your width of fabric is sometimes 44 inches. So I did the width of fabric by 22 inches. I actually cut a little more than 22 inches just to be safe. How I did that was I took my cutting mat and I lined this ruler up at the edge so that these lines matched up with the lines on my ruler, and I just pulled my fabric out to about 23 inches instead of 22 1/2, and I cut on my cutting mat. My cutting mat is only an 18 by 24 inch. It would be awesome to get one of those larger 24 by 36, which after doing this quilt, I'm like, maybe I should look into getting one of those, but those are a little pricey. I might have to wait till like Joann's has a 40% off coupon for that. Anyway, so I lined this up with my cutting mat, and then I pulled the fabric out to 23 inches and cut on the 1 inch, the 0 inch line on my cutting board. And then from that piece, 22 by width of fabric piece, I cut 2 of the 8 3/4 by 22 1/2 inch pieces, and then I cut 2 of the 11 1/2, which go on the top and the bottom of your side columns pieces. I cut 2 of those 11.5 by 22 out. And then I did another 22 by width of fabric, 23 by width of fabric piece. And I cut 2 more and 2 more. I feel like there's a lot less fabric waste. So this is what was left over after doing a 11.5 piece and an 8 to 8 3/4 piece. So there's not much fabric left from that piece. I can save this, press it, and use it for other things. That was the best cutting way I found. Since mine's a solid and not directional, which I wouldn't recommend directional for this pattern anyways, it worked out just dandy. I still have to cut out my border pieces. So this is the pieces that, see, you can see how large they are. They go around on the top and the bottom of my side columns. I haven't attached them yet. I was just cutting them out this morning. So this is the 22.5 inch, but actually it's bigger. So once I sew these, let's see if I have a piece. Once I sew them to the sides of the blocks and press them open, that's when I will go and I will take my ruler and I will square that up because I know it's going to be slightly bigger than I need. I don't know if this is like the technical proper way to do this, but this is the best way that I could go to make sure that the pieces were the correct size. I didn't want to accidentally, pull it out and not get exactly 22.5 inches, if that makes sense. So once you have all your blocks in the center with their side pieces and have them pressed, then you will sew those together, and same with the side columns. I have my side columns done. Whew. I'm excited to get this on my bed. It's pretty long. So this is my side column. I still need to attach the top and the bottom pieces to it. And then now, since this is the only one that has kind of points, I will go with my ruler and see if sometimes there's little pieces that jet out a little more than others. What I usually do is I take my ruler and I'll line it up with seams just to make sure that this is completely straight. I'll cut off any of the little pieces that jet out outside of my ruler. And then I can add the sashing in between and add it to the side of the center column, if that makes sense. I love to see all the progress in this project. Thank you, Yessie. It is fun to see it go together. I'm excited to have this on my bed, even though now it's a little too cold for just a quilt. I'm excited. Maybe I'll have it on in the spring. I'm excited. But yeah, this one's pretty big blocks. That's kind of why I like to make it in sections. And then we're going to add those sashing pieces in between. Does anybody have any questions about putting your top together? The kind of nice part about adding these fabric strips, once you get your columns down, you can even up those sides without cutting off any points, which I like. And a lot of the blocks only have a few spots where you can nest, and then you kind of just smooth them out so that you can pin them together and sew them together. So once you have those 3 columns, the smaller sizes will sew those 3 columns together. The king size will have additional sashing pieces that go inside, if you see on page 16. So if you don't want, so the king will end up being 110 by 105. If you don't want it to be that large, you could always leave out those sashing pieces in the center or make them smaller. I like how the 110 goes over my bed from side to side, because my bed is pretty tall. So that'll make it go and hit at the bottom of where my bed frame is. So I'm actually going to make my design go on my bed this way and have it lay this way, because the 105 will be going from top to bottom, and I think it'll just lay nicer and cover better. That way, you know, you don't have to struggle as much keeping the quilts on top of you at night. So, and you could also just not put the sashing around it. So, the smaller sizes, if you didn't want the sashing, it would just end up like this. Or you could add the sashing to give it the frame, like my original did. So after you have your top done, you know, you're gonna start doing the finishing processes. Make sure your quilt is nice and pressed before you do your quilt sandwich. So big. Oh, here's my baby size. I finished this a while ago. I was supposed to quilt it and stuff, but I didn't. So I need to do that still. Here's the baby size. It's actually fairly large, so it's touching the ground right now. It goes from my toes to my mouth. I'm 5'5", almost 5'5", 5'4" 3/4". So this would actually make a really good lap size if you are somebody that doesn't want to go and do a bigger quilt. You could just do this small lap size, baby lap size, and it's a lot easier to complete. There's also no flying geese in this lap size. And then I'm going to back it with this fabric. I have the backing already. I just haven't had time to finish it. So hopefully I'll be able to do that over the next few weeks. My king size, I think I'm going to have it long armed. So if you're going to have your quilt long armed, make sure you contact your long armer to see how much batting and backing fabric they require. It's typically going to be at least 4 inches on all sides more than your quilt, so 8 inches total bigger. So measure out your quilt and make sure you have that extra. I ordered a wide back, 108-inch wide back. That's not quite big enough for the 105-inch width. So she said I can either sew some leaders on the sides just so she has something to clamp onto for the long arm. So I might either do that, or I might just add more of the backing fabric on the side to make it large enough. It's really cool. It's a starry fabric, galaxy fabric with reds and black and navy. I don't think it has yellow in it, but it does have white. So I think that will look perfect with this quilt top. So I ordered that yesterday, and I should be getting that in a few days. So you're going to want to, if you're not long arming it and you're going to quilt it yourself, you'll need your top, your backing fabric, and batting. I typically use Warm and Natural Company, either the Warm and Natural or the Warm Company. I usually use Warm and Natural, Warm and White, or Warm and Plush. I like Warm and Plush because it's a little thicker than Warm and White or Warm and Natural. But I noticed when I'm using spray-based, because I like using spray-based, sometimes it doesn't stick as well, and I think it's just because it's so fluffy. So sometimes when I do the spray-based with that, I will also add some additional pins just so that I know it's not going to shift. I'm not sure what I will use for the baby size right now. I have a bunch in there. I think I have some Warm and White I'm going to use for that one. And I'm not sure about the king size because I'm going to have her do it. I don't know. She has batting in stock, the long armor, so I might just have her use her batting. So once you have that quilt sandwich ready, you know, just choose how you want to quilt it. I'm not sure how I'm going to have this one quilted. So the baby size, this is what the baby size looks like. For my original one, I echoed the design. So my original looked like this, and I just kind of followed the design. I put my foot up against it, so it gave it like a 1/4 inch echo along all the edges of the seams. And then in this center, I kind of just marked out and echoed it out into the dead space. And that's probably what I'll do with this one too. Just follow the design and then have it echo out into this dead space. I like how that looks. And it also gives the quilt a lot of good texture. And so then once it's quilted, you gotta bind it, which is, I have basic steps here, but if you go to my blog post for this week, I have a lot of links to other designers, other awesome designers' tutorials on how to quilt, free motion quilting, hand tying your quilt, and using your walking foot. Also, how to use binding. Susie Williams from Susie Quilts has a really good tutorial on binding. I always send people that way because I don't have a tutorial, and that's actually what I use is her tutorial when I go to use my binding, do my binding. So I would check that out if you are unsure of how to do your binding. But I'm really excited to see everybody's finished quilts. I don't know how long it's going to take to get the King quilts. I don't know how long she is booked out. I should really contact her once the top's done and then get that process going. But I'm going to hopefully finish this baby size this month, hopefully. I don't know. For the Facebook Quilt Along group, just keep posting your photos. And I'm not sure when the next Quilt Along will be. It will probably be in 2023, just because I have a lot of quilts that I need to finish. Maybe we'll do another one of those, finish those unfinished quilts. We'll see. So if nobody has any questions, I guess I will get going and try to get some sewing done. And I hope you have a great day. If you ever have any questions, you can email me at happycloudcreations@gmail.com. Or you can put a message in the group or on my Instagram, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Yeah, there's 10% off of the pattern through the 15th. But also, if you don't need to get the pattern right away, I am having a Black Friday sale, and I'm not sure when that's going to start. I don't know if people like it to start early, like on the 18th, or if I should wait and start the Black Friday sale on the 25th. I'm not sure, because a lot of people are already starting their Black Friday sales, so I'm like, should I start one early? I don't know. Let me know what you think. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you later. Bye.